Well, that's just about the last thing any homeowner wants to hear. Mold contaminating their house. What's really scary is you can have a problem and not even see any evidence of it.
Right. Climate change may be making the situation even worse as we get hit with bigger and more frequent rainstorms. Meteorologist Vicki Graff wanted to find out what homeowners should be doing to protect their homes and their health.
His lymph nodes swelled up and he had dark rings under his eyes and he just was a lump on the log, very lethargic.
Carmela Taylor wasn't happy when a doctor told her not to worry, that her son Jed would catch a million things this winter.
I just dug into it, you could call it the mommy gut, dug into it and really wanted to get him tested.
That's when she found out her 2-year-old son and other members of the family had been exposed to high concentrations of mold.
It was coming from the basement, stemming from the basement, but it was also coming from the bathroom of our house.
Mold is a fungus that thrives in wet, humid conditions, something we're seeing more of with climate change. That's because warm air holds more moisture than colder air. Consider that Boston historically averages 43 inches of rain a year. Last year, we got soaked with 50 inches and record rainfall over the summer.
It can cause a slew of problems.
Dr. Brian Cotter is with Wellness Way in Shrewsbury.
Taylor brought her son to this site, which practices holistic medicine. She now works here.
You could have anywhere from somebody just being stiff all the time to chronic infections, colds, blurry vision, smelling issues. There's so many different symptoms that could be associated with it.
You're probably very busy right now.
We're very busy.
Jeff Bradley is the owner of Indoor Doctor, a company that analyzes air quality.
When you're going through the home, what are you looking for?
We're looking for signs of obviously moisture, and then we're looking for visual signs of any sort of fungal activity or growth.
Indoor environmental specialist Mike Finale starts his hunt for high moisture levels with a thermal imager.
It's showing us temperature variation within the wall, with the understanding that wet building materials are on average colder than dry materials.
Finale is like a dog chasing a bone, crawling under the dining room table to root out potential trouble spots.
There's some white residue and kind of bubbling splotchiness.
Kitchens are notorious problem areas.
You can have slow leaks through, whether it be the back if there's not proper caulking, or even just small little gaps around the bottom trunk of the faucet.
Bathrooms are another common source of mold.
One of the most important things in a bathroom is proper ventilation and exhaust, because when we have hot steaming showers going, we get all that fog buildup, and that's humidity, right?
Finale recommends the toilet paper test on a bathroom fan.
So make sure it's got enough suction to hold that in place.
In the basement, a dehumidifier is a must.
The first thing that we would encourage for every basement in all sections is to properly dehumidify the basement to control the humidity below 45%.
Could this be an expensive process for somebody to go through?
I would suggest that it's more expensive to get sick. So safety's first, your health is first.
Day and night difference. He is doing awesome.
Carmela Taylor is thankful Jed is finally on the road to recovery, and this chapter in their lives has a happy ending.
You're not meant to be sick all the time. If you do have a house, it's worth getting it tested because ours was newly renovated.
Mike Finale told me they recommend leaving the bathroom fan running for 30 minutes after a shower so that all the excess humidity can be pulled out of the room. For your local station, meteorologist Vicki Graff, Boston 25 News.
Yeah, and after taking care of the immediate pipe problems stemming from the winter storms, calling a mold expert to check on the safety of your home may be the next step.
Yeah, KXAN's Wes Rappaport has the details on those safety precautions.
Whether minor water damage in this Austin apartment or months of repairs in this Lubbock church.
Everything's so damaged, so waterlogged and saturated that it's not salvageable.
It might be time to call a mold assessor now that the storm has passed. As the waterlogged carpets and stained ceilings are fixed, a critical component of recovery comes into play, checking for unsafe levels of mold.
It will eventually lead to respiratory issues, allergenic issues, asthmatic issues, and potentially neurological issues.
Using moisture meters and thermal scanners, the pros can check your home.
And if we do find conditions that are conducive to mold growth, we're going to do some sampling and we're going to get some independent lab data to confirm whether or not we do have a mold situation happening in the home.
Water leaked into Robert Wallace's Round Rock home during the storm.
The first thing I did was grab a bunch of towels and just start pressing on them.
As soon as the winter weather passed, he called for an inspection to protect his family.
Wanted to make sure it was safe. for my wife and me and my son.
While Wallace waits for the mold test results, he's taking steps to keep the inside of his house dry in the future, so he, like other Texans, can be ready before the next storm. Wes Rappaport, KXAN News.
People who do end up with mold then move to what's called the remediation phase to dry the inside of the walls, peel back soaked carpets, and make up any repairs that are needed.
Some public buildings across Western Mass have been closing their doors after finding dangerous mold inside, such as the Roderick Ireland Courthouse and South Hadley High School, which have both since opened their doors.
But some residents in the area are living with mold inside their home and have nowhere else to go. Western Mass News reporter Paris Dunford is getting answers on the responsibility of landlords to provide a safe and healthy environment for tenants.
Allison Call and Crystal Rodriguez are neighbors in Greenfield. Rodriguez has lived in her apartment building for 5 years, and over time, she says she's noticed the growth of mold.
After the first year, I started noticing mold in my son's closet.
In August, she says the mold got worse, touching almost every corner of her house. You can see here it was on almost all of her son's belongings and was even growing out of the walls.
It's really hard. Like, I had to throw most of my son's clothes away.
Rodriguez says her landlord had her apartment chemically sprayed before providing her with a dehumidifier. But after neither option worked, she says she and her son began feeling very sick.
Both my ears have been swollen, so it's like swimmer's ear. My nasal passages are also swollen. Like, I have severe allergies, and I've never been allergic to anything. My son has been upset stomach and sinus pressure.
Unfortunately, Rodriguez isn't the only one feeling the impacts of the mold.
My son was sick as well as me for like 2.5 months. He just got over a bad cough and he had rash on his face. I was super depressed here. I mean, I don't know if that had anything to do with it.
Call says she found mold on pillows and blankets her 14-month-old son and 9-year-old daughter were sleeping on. Western Mass News obtained a report from Allied Painting and Floors, the company that was hired to remove the mold in the apartment building. In their report, the company writes in part, moisture content readings did not show any areas of abnormal moisture levels. But tests from mold removal company Nature's Way tell a different story.
The inside was 1,700.
What's that mean to a normal person?
1,700, in my explanation, means some form of remediation has to be done. In the master bedroom, it was 4,100.
According to Daniel Atkins, mold inspector and founder of Nature's Way, Inc., normal mold levels inside a home are usually under 100, and remediation is recommended once levels hit 800. After seeing those results, Western Mass News reached out to Greenfield Housing Authority's executive director, Thomas Garino, the building's landlord, for comment. In a statement, he writes in part, quote, "We have had other testing done of the walls. It shows the moisture contents were within limits. We have followed the guidance received in putting in a big dehumidifier to kill the spores in there." Now, over in Springfield, Idalis Rivera says she's been dealing with mold in her home for several years. These photos she shared show mold and mushrooms growing from her bathroom ceiling. She says the mold has gotten much worse over the past couple of months, and despite multiple calls to her landlord, the issue has not been resolved.
I called her to fix it since the 4th of this month, and she's been coming in and out, and nothing has been done.
Rivera believes the mold stems from a leak coming from an upstairs apartment, a piece of plywood blocking the hole in the ceiling. And after having her home tested for mold, the results were alarming.
I found 6,300 on the inside bathroom, so that was quite contaminated.
Rivera has lived in her apartment for 12 years and doesn't want to move out, but she may not have a choice, as she is also starting to feel an impact on her health.
My nerve, everything. Anxiety. I get headache, I get nauseous, stomach ache, stuffy nose.
Now, we called Rivera's landlord, who said she had no comment on this issue.
We also reached out to a local attorney who handles these type of cases. He says there is a law referred to as the implied warranty of habitability that states a landlord has a duty to maintain healthy living conditions. If mold inside the home potentially impacts the health, welfare, and safety of residents, a landlord must mitigate the problem. Reporting for Western Mass News, I'm Paris Dunford.
There is literally a mushroom.
This is what a horrified Jocelyn Rodriguez saw 2 Saturdays ago in the bedroom of the San Isidro home where she lived with her 6-year-old son and elderly parents.
And I was like, you know what? This can't be right.
The first signs of trouble some 5 days after the January flooding, with a ceiling leak in the living room. Later, she found mold in the bathroom and bubbling on several walls.
This is all water damage.
On the day after she discovered the mushroom,
We were getting ready for church, and all of a sudden we heard a loud bam.
part of her living room ceiling collapsed.
When we seen the roof collapsed, then we could see the mold, how bad it was.
Rodriguez is not alone. Chris Rainbow, owner of 911 Flood Pros, is helping lead a group of contractors and restoration businesses in aiding flood victims.
So we have seen quite a few homes where the homeowners have not done anything to the property yet because they're trying to come up with a determination of who's going to help pay for things. And in those cases, we are seeing mold.
Rainbow says signs of mold include a musty, wet carpet smell, bubbling on the walls, and yes, mushrooms, which signal conditions are ripe for mold. He says you should seek professional help, especially if asbestos or lead is involved. But knows some flood victims are dealing with the mold themselves.
Rainbow does advise measures like a protective suit, along with goggles, a respirator, gloves.
This is a polyurethane plastic.
Rainbow says the moldy area must be isolated and any mold bagged to prevent it from spreading. Back in San Ysidro, Rodriguez's family is staying at a hotel on a voucher and searching for permanent housing. For any flood victims dealing with mold, she has this message.
At the first sign of mold, just go into action. A lot of things you can replace in this world can't replace your health.
Michael Chen, ABC 10 News.